All right,
Uh,
sorry.
sorry.
Start over from the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny.
Okay. So March 28th. The slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We shall persevere until we succeed. Augmandino. Or it is in our failure if we quit. The decision is entirely up to you. So, we read books, and this one that we're going to discuss today is a part of what the discussion we've been having is the Outwitting the Devil with Napoleon Hill. And we've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. We've got a few more points to go with that this week. But I think it's important that we also understand that whatever we read in any book, at anywhere, whatever we see, whatever we learn, we've got to apply that information and that knowledge to whatever we're doing. It's no use storing information and being an idiot savant, which is a brilliant idiot that just keeps all the information in our minds. We've got to be able to apply it to our lives to make a meaningful difference. So, what we're looking at right now is mastering the fear of negative thoughts. So, Dan and I were talking about this, and we're looking at what does that mean? And we're looking, and I found some examples of where we can see people who've actually done something with that. The first thing is understand the issue, determine if it's real or imagined, weigh up the rewards of overcoming the fear versus the challenges of succumbing to it. In other words, we look at a problem and then we get afraid. And sometimes that problem is totally non-existent. It's just doesn't there. So analyze that. And some examples of this, I'll just give one and then Dan. For example, Nelson Mandela, his fear of jail was less than the vision of a different country. He spent 27 years in jail, but his vision, the idea of success was greater than the pain of living in jail. So, all of these things, and there are many examples, and I've got a few others, obviously, but it's a question of finding the reason why that we don't hook into fear, that we can overcome the fear, that we can kill the fear. And that is the devil, outwitting the devil. The fear, the devil is the devil is the fear, the devil is the uncertainty, the devil is that other little voice that says, no, you can't. Anything that is negative is the devil. That's what we've got to outwit. And the way to do that is to strengthen our values and what we believe in, what we want, and how we want to get there. Danielle.
Yes, sir. The devil in this case is your mind and fear, right? So, we have a choice whether we're going to control our mind or we're going to let fear control our mind, right? And so many people allow uncertainty and doubt to keep them stuck. The devil or your mind in this case is an invisible influence that thrives when we surrender to fear, when we surrender to procrastination, and we don't have a definite purpose. That's why purpose is so important. But those people who train their minds to reject this fear and replace it with faith, courage, positive expectations, really start to break free from this control. They become masters or creators of their reality instead of victims of their circumstances. And this is really the crux of the book is expanding on this mastery over fear and these negative thoughts that drive us to not reach our full potential. So if you want to start applying this in your daily life, you need to learn to be the gatekeeper of your mind. Pay attention to the thoughts that come in and out of your brain throughout the day. Every negative thought that you have is like an open door inviting doubt and fear, right? So when you catch yourself in that spiral of fear, worry, just take a minute, be more mindful, pause, reframe that thought into something more constructive. Instead of what if I fail, ask what's the best possible outcome. Just reframing that, or one word can make a huge difference in your mindset and how you think about things. It's funny that I was on LinkedIn this week, and there's an extreme hatred by medical device reps for um, compliance companies. So there's these companies out there that were created that you have to be compliant to get access to go into the hospital, and then basically it was a money grab. You had to be credentialed, and then they started to blame the reps for higher infection rates because they were wearing the same scrubs that doctors were wearing. So now they make them pay $10 a day for paper scrubs. But somebody posted that one of these hated companies sent out an email with a video message from an actor that they hired from the TV show Scrubs to send a message to basically say that now customer service, there's free customer service 24/7. So that one word was what irritated everybody. Free. Because they know they're paying $500 at every hospital for the service. So it's not free. Right? So one word can change everything. It can hold a completely different meaning. It can change your mindset. It can change your attitude, your beliefs, all of those things. So, we need to learn also to choose our environment wisely. Who are we hanging out with? Are we hanging out in positive environments or negative environments? The people that you surround yourself with influence your mindset too. If they're fearful or negative or complacent, their mindset's going to rub off on you, right? We're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most amount of time with. So seek out people who inspire you, who challenge you and uplift you. That's what's so great about this community that we've developed here. We all inspire each other. We all keep each other motivated, and these calls throughout the week are meant to help with that. And you need to learn to take immediate action against this fear. Fear thrives in inaction. If you don't do anything, the fear is gonna stay. If you start taking action, that fear starts to dissipate. So the longer you wait, the stronger it grows. The antidote for fear is movement. Take action, do something. People get into this business or to be an entrepreneur, and they're fearful of taking action. We see people sit around on their hands for months and years, getting on these calls every week and not building any volume, not selling to anybody, not talking to anybody, not transforming their business. So take immediate action against fear. If you're afraid to make a call, start a business, or take risk, do it anyway. Even in small steps, it doesn't matter. Confidence builds through action. Lawrence?
Yeah, so here are a couple of examples exactly on all these things. We make excuses like fear. We don't take action because of something, which is just nonsense, just excuses. And we become expert at lying to ourselves about why we can't do certain things. So, I'm looking over here at for example, J.K. Rowling's, the author of uh, Harry Potter. She had a lot of rejections, but and she didn't ever desist from her idea that she had this thing going on in her mind and she had to share it. She kept on and on and on. So instead of seeing, the failure as an endpoint, she used this as a stepping stone to write Harry Potter and influence millions of people. Elon Musk failed how many times? Lots of times. But he stuck with it and he's still out there in the moon somewhere. SpaceX, he wants to put people on the moon and stuff. I mean, that's outrageous stuff for many of us, for me anyway. And I'm thinking, why the hell are we going to the moon? Why are we doing? Well, eventually we're going to find some reason. SpaceX, the whole internet thing that he's created as well. He's got a bigger internet system technology than a lot of the others. I was looking at Oprah Winfrey. She was born dirt poor. and she saw her family around and she said, my gosh, I'm going to have the same thing. So the pain of having that same thing was what drove her to say, no, I'm going to overcome that. And she surrounded herself with people that would influence her in a positive way. Uh, and there are other things we've got to do also. We've got to stimulate the mind. Steve Jobs, he started doing, studying Buddhism and Zen and walking on, breathing exercises and all these things. This is a guy who was wholeheartedly techie. So there are a lot of things that we can overcome the fear of something we don't know, fear of 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 seeing what's on the other side. And we get afraid, and that is what tempers us because we say, well, what if I fail? Who cares if you fail? You're the only one who's gonna be the one that's going to be affected. So be brave. Take decisions that are going to be worthwhile. Michael Jordan, how many times did he fail? He was, I actually got this from he was cut from the school basketball team. School basketball team. But he trained harder and harder and harder. Michael Jordan. That's a big deal. So we've got examples, as we always say, success leaves clues. Well, we've got to look at those successes. We've got to look at those clues. We've got to understand how we can adapt those clues to who we are. What are we lacking? What does Jeff Bezos have that we don't have? He started doing this thing in his garage with books. Who's reading books today? But yet, look where he did. So everybody has some example that we can look at, and we can either accept it or reject it. But we've got to have, and Dan, your word, the gatekeeper of our mind. I like that. I actually wrote it down. We have to be the gatekeeper of our mind. I've always said, separate your emotion. In fact, what I always talk about is every time you've got an emotional decision, invite your invite your rational mind into the discussion. Because if we have an emotional decision, we can really screw up. But if we invite the mind down into having more stability, we can get a more rational decision of or analysis of what we're doing. So the gatekeeper of your mind, I really like that. You guys take that down, man. There should be that's a very good one. Be the gatekeeper of your mind.
Well, if you like that one, you're going to love this one.
Go for it.
We need to learn to weaponize failure,
Oh, good. Why?
right? Don't use failure as a crutch. Use failure as a weapon. Use it to drive you. Use it to be better, become better. You know, feed your mind with positivity rather than negativity. Um, all of these things that we're talking about today are game changers, right? They help you to become immune to manipulation. Fear is manipulation. It's a tool to control people. It's a tool by our mind to control us. It doesn't matter if it's media, education, politics, societal expectations. It's manipulation. When you stop reacting to fear and you start to weaponize your failures, you regain control over your decisions and your destiny, right? And your mind creates your reality. The law of attraction, it's backed by psychology, states that what you focus on expands. If you focus on fear, if you focus on failure, if you focus on doubt, you're going to attract more of it. And if you hang around with people that do those things, it's going to rub off on you, no matter how hard you try in some form or fashion. If you focus on faith, abundance, action, consistency, discipline, you're going to create success. Success is simple. People make success difficult because we throw up, we're not immune to fear because we let failure hold us back rather than using it as a weapon. Life is easy. Humans make it difficult. It's the same thing with business. It's the same thing with success. But the good thing about success is that it is transferable. So if you've been successful, ripples, you guys both went to college, you guys both went to PA school. What were those things that you did to get through PA school and be successful? Utilize those same exact habits, those same exact actions, and you'll be successful in anything that you do. It's transferable. What I did to be successful in soccer and medical device sales was just outwork everybody else. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'll outwork anybody. And meaning outworking, it doesn't have to necessarily be more hours. It can be outworking them by being more efficient, being smarter at working smarter, not harder.
So when you said weaponize failure, I love that because we actually should embrace failure. We've always talked about embrace your failure because it's the best learning tool you've got. People that are successful and continually successful, the day they have a failure, they go to pieces. Whereas a person who's had a lot of failures will be a much more rounded person because he or she will be able to understand how to get out of that, how to fix that problem, how to progress. So embrace your failures, weaponize your failure. I agree with that. Embrace your failures, learn from them, look forward to failing so that you can have a really good lesson about it. There's even that book, Go for No. That's a book about going for failure. Go for no. Work your way towards a yes. The more no's you have, finally you'll get to a yes. And each time you have a no, you learn more about the psychology of why that happened. Why was that person? Why was it something I said? Was it something the person reacted to? What is the person's reason for thinking no? What was on that person's mind? All of these things are are learning lessons for us, even with the go for no. So that is also weaponizing the failure. You feel stronger with that. Yay. Okay, that one said no. Okay, cool. I really thought she would say or he would say yes. And the next one, who you don't even think is going to say yes or no, suddenly says, oh my gosh, what a brilliant thing this is. How did that happen? So that is where we learn, and we've got to continue learning every day, whatever we can, about who we are, how we speak, who we talk to, and who the people we talk to, who are the people we talk to, because that's the way to overcome the failures in ourselves and obviously, hopefully, over the others.
And that dovetails into the last nugget that we're going to talk about in this book, which is mastering your other self. So the highest version of yourself that operates free from these things, from this fear, from this doubt, from this external influence, is the person you are a minute from now, an hour from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. That better version of yourself. The Buddhists call it enlightenment, which is basically just the better version of yourself. You know, this enlightened, fearless self is the key to to success, to creativity, and the personal power to make your life better. But most people never fully activate it. My goal since I was 20 years old was to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. And how do I do that? I have to be conscious. I have to be more present. I have to understand things I do today and how I think today can make me a better person tomorrow by altering those things. But a lot of people, they never activate that, because they're trapped in fear and self-imposed limitations and societal limitations, and this best version of you is really just a part of you that doesn't worry about failure, rejection, or criticism. You trust your gut instincts and make powerful decisions rather than sitting around and getting what does he call it, Lawrence? Um, procrastination.
Yeah.
Um, being more decisive, being more bold, acting more with purpose. And really just being unstoppable. Pushing through these obstacles, seeing them as challenges rather than roadblocks. Like I said, weaponizing failure. This self is within you. But it only emerges when you break free from that fear and the self-doubt. And times of great adversity, Hill says this in his book, times of great adversity often serve as a turning point. When fear is faced and the other self starts to take control. Lawrence?
Yeah, in fact, putting adversity. So the big thing is be the person you want to be. The other person that Dan just mentioned is the person you want to be. Be the person you want to be. And what happens is when things go well, we become complacent. When things go well, we kind of just, cruise along and everything's fine. And suddenly we have a mishap, and that's when we've got to introspect and we've got to reanalyze. And we say, whoa, what happened now? Oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? And that's when we start to grow because we are no longer complacent in our mindset of just cruising along. And if you cruise along, you're never going to grow. And the only way to grow is if you have some challenges. So that's the other person. So yeah, embrace the adversity. Dan, we got a couple of minutes. I don't know. You want anything else you want to add to that?
Just one last quick thing. The other self isn't something that you acquire. It's already within you. You just need to set it free, right? The only thing blocking you is this fear and this hesitation and this self-doubt. The moment you decide to silence that fear, to take control of your mind rather than letting your mind control you or any of these external influences, um, and self-doubt, the moment you decide to silence those things and trust yourself fully, you step into a limitless version of yourself. So we'll open it up for questions. One quick thing. I'll ask a question quick.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what's one fear? What's one habit? What's one failure I can conquer today to get closer to your other self?
Good one. There's a homework for everybody. Good job.
Anybody?
There's somebody with a hand up, Susan.
Yes, this is very simplistic, but I have always, I don't know, Winnie the Pooh has always spoken to me ever since I was a young child. And when y'all are talking about all of this stuff, the phrase or the quote from Winnie the Pooh, "You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think," to me fits this whole point of your other self and thinking that. I mean, we get into our own thoughts and get in the way of our own thoughts. And but that just, I don't know. That was just a little something
Print
that,
that print that off and put it on your mirror, everybody. Look at
yeah,
it every day, first thing when you wake up, and start your day off with positive thoughts about yourself.
Very strong. Very strong.
Thank you.
Agreed.
All right.
By the way, everybody think about this for a minute. If you have any fear, look rationally and look at the rewards of what overcoming that fear would mean. So that could be your motivation, the reward of what overcoming that fear, which is stagnating you. If something is holding you back, if something is just holding you back, look at it and say, why? And what would be the advantage of me getting out of this stagnant moment? What would the reward be? So you can either have the pain of where you are or the reward of where you're going. And the pain has got to be bigger than the reward to get you out.
Or the reward has to be so great that you're willing to endure the pain.
Thank you. I was waiting for exactly that. Exactly that.
There's Lawrence goes, leading you guys down the wrong path again.
I was I was waiting for that because there's always the two sides. One is the carrot and one is the stick. So the stick is one thing, the carrot is another. And that's where you got to decide whether you want the stick or the carrot.
Exactly.
Eric, yes, sir.
Yeah, along those lines, the when you think about the rewards, a lot of people stop at the high level or superficial. You know, I'm gonna if I do this, I'm going to make X amount of money, or I'm going to be able to have the freedom I want. But really, you need to dig down too and ask yourself, so what if you get that to an emotional level? So you keep asking the question, so what if you go deeper and deeper to that initial surface reward, or for that matter, the initial surface consequence or fear of something that's bad that's going to happen if I don't accomplish this goal or take myself forward. If you get to that emotional level, then that's going to really motivate you and drive you. So I see a lot of people sometimes they just on the top, you know, they say all the nice things that everybody expects from business people, especially, but really deep down, there's something else usually underneath. It could be about their family and their legacy they're going to leave for their grandchildren. Now you see how that my voice changed even when I talked about that. So you know you got to evoke that emotion that's at a deeper level when you're doing this.
We got that emotion there, Eric. We got it. Good job. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else?
Excellent call, guys. Fantastic. I have 6 key points I took from this, and I think it'd be very beneficial for everyone to hear these one more time. Whatever we read and learn, we need to apply. Be the gatekeeper of our own mind. We need to learn to weaponize failure. The good thing about success is that it is transferable, and be the person you want to be. Fantastic call, guys. Great book right here, Outwitting the Devil. Awesome job.
Awesome. Thanks, Cash. Great analysis there.
Excellent, Cash. Thank Cash with a K. Thank you, sir. Don't forget to listen to Cash's call on a Wednesday, guys. It's very important. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Anybody else got anything? No?
Nope.
I was going
All
to
right.
say just really some excellent points, and it's just a great reminder of how we need to overcome some of our stalling sometimes, and just having these calls just to reinforce us to believe in ourselves and to move forward despite some of the challenges we might have. I think it's so valuable. So thank you so much, the both of you, for providing these excellent calls. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I get older, I start to forget about some of the difficult things that I've done in the past. I start to forget about some of the adversity that I've had to deal with. I start to forget about some of the failures that I've summited, you know, and grown because of those failures. So it's, you know, it's a good reminder for all of us on these calls that, you know, kind of take us back to that time, you know, earlier in life where we were much more open to adversity and failure and working really hard to get what we wanted. Because as we get older, I think that starts to wane a little bit in a lot of us. And so it's good to just have that constant reminder, and it's good to have, you know, young bucks like Cash on here that will remind us of what back then we thought we were capable of much more than we probably do at this point in our lives as we get older, right?
The point is, as you become more comfortable, you become more prosperous, the pain of that effort, that struggle wears off. And from time to time, it's a very good thing to think about that, because that is what got you where you are. Whether you reacted positively to it and had a good outcome or not. And as you look at these things, as Cash said, you know, it's a good thing to think deeply about these things. Wonderful little phrase, which you can use in the process of thinking deeper, is which means that. So if I go out and I prospect today and I bring in a good customer or a good distributor, that builds my income, which means that maybe I get a good vacation this year. Maybe I get to fund a college program for a child or a grandchild. So, and when you say that, say, okay, what does that mean? If I fund the college program for a child or grandchild, which means that then they will probably have greater prosperity in their life. So you can take it using that little link phrase, you can take it to logical conclusions, which can give you a far bigger vision of what you're contemplating today.
Excellent. Love it. Which means that. That's one for the mirror too. That's one for the mirror. Oh, wow, that's a lot of stuff. We could have a whole talk on that. Which means that. Lots and lots of subjects. Fertile ground there. Anybody else got anything? Thank you, Martin.
Just
Getting
like
back,
to chime. Oh, sorry.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
who was talking?
Yes, just like to chime in a little bit. Wonderful call. I appreciate everyone's efforts and comments. I just want to mention a little bit. I had the fortunate opportunity to work with Lawrence yesterday, and he not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. So thank you again, Lawrence. It was an excellent day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Was it Helena was going to say something?
Yes, sir. Just real quick, getting back to the point of as we get older, I think we also get tired, at least for me, working all the years that we've worked and successes, failures, we just get tired and unmotivated. And doing these calls and doing the 8 a.m. calls that Derek Steve is doing and just being connected to everybody here is good to remotivate, to get your mindset back to where it used to be, because you know all these things, but you just don't feel like it anymore, or you forget a lot. And I think this is really good to kind of re-spark that energy that we need at this point to move forward. So thank you.
Helena, don't talk about age, because honestly, I'll tell you what, you've got to reignite your passion. You've got to find a passion for something. The reason I do this business is I don't do this for the money anymore. I do it because I have the passion to get up in the morning and feel like I might make a difference positively to somebody. Whether I do or not doesn't matter. That's my thinking, to have the passion. So reignite your passion. Find something you like and love it, and that will motivate you. In this case, it's this business because it's multifaceted. It's got a lot of possibilities, many possibilities. You know, whether you want to make money, whether you want to help somebody look better, whether you want to help somebody be more healthy, whether you want to help somebody prosper, whatever it is. So find in this business, if this is the possibility, which is the niche that you're looking for to push that will give you the passion. For example, I'm not motivated by looking beautiful. I don't care. I care less about that. Obviously, I'm over it. You can't do anything about it. But I am motivated about health. And I'm motivated about helping people with their health. So find something in there. So don't get tired ever. As soon as you feel like you're getting tired, look in the mirror, give yourself a high five and say, here we are, man. I'm ready to go again. That's like getting slapped down and you fall down and get up again.
There was a good little book a few years ago called Don't Retire, Refire.
There you go. I love it. There you go.
Well, thank you very much for that.
All right.
All right, everybody. Lawrence,
Thank
ready?
you.
Wrap her up.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
for
everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for everybody's input. We always love it when you guys participate. We'll see everybody next Friday.
thank y'all so
Thank
much.
you.
We'll
Thanks,
post the new
guys.
book
Great
in,
weekend.
Have a
we'll
good
post the new
weekend.
book into the HCA Facebook group for starting next week. And I'll post the link for the ladies' Cassini shirt in there as well.
Thank you.
All right. Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you. God bless everybody. Take care.
Have a great week.
You too.
Bye.